2023 edition of the JoyNews Ecobank Habitat Fair. This is your one-stop solution to everything housing, and that's why it's been raining discounts here at the venue where we are at the Accra International Conference Center. And ever since the doors were open to this very fair, a lot has been happening here that you need to know about. This is why we're leaving the options open to you this year as we reflect on the theme affordability, comfort, and also we're keeping our eyes on luxury as well. So if you're watching us on the JoyNews channel, this is the JoyNews Ecobank Habitat Fair. And of course, there's a lot for you to discover. We've been bringing you excerpts of what's been happening ever since this fair opened in terms of the options, home ownership solutions, or perhaps for those of you who want to rent to own, you have that option as well. And that's why I'm so excited to be joining the conversation this afternoon, as we're also educating you alongside this very fair. And we're bringing you the seminar, of course, this afternoon here on the JoyNews channel as part of the Ecobank JoyNews Habitat Fair. We're looking at this topic, which is very particular to many of those who are prospective home owners or those who are seeking to rent as well. And I'm talking about land ownership or land acquisition, which has been a challenge and a headache for many of you out there. Well, this afternoon, we're about to get educated on the matter, and we're looking at land acquisition and building the foundation. These are very critical aspects of home ownership, or perhaps for those of you who are even renting, your landlord needs to know much more about land acquisition. When the fair opened yesterday, I was excited to hear from one man who, of course, joined us to open everything up and to set the ball rolling for the Habitat Fair. And I'm talking about someone who is a consummate expert when it comes to our laws relating to land litigation and whatever it is that you need to know about. I'm talking about lawyer Kwame, who's again joining us this afternoon. A round of applause for him as we, of course, are expecting that lawyer Kwame will be sharing his thoughts with us on land acquisition and also building the foundation. But we're doing this fair, the JoyNews Ecobank Habitat Fair, simply because of the kind of partnership that we've enjoyed and the support that we've enjoyed from many exhibitors and also organizations that are supporting this very fair. And it's a good reason for us to bring our friends together and also have, some conversation on some of the offers they have, opportunities that you might take advantage of here at the Accra International Conference Center. They all have their stands here, but we're seeing the faces to it, right? So let me tell you about Winston who's head of Advantage Banking at Ecobank. He's also joining us this afternoon. It's good to see you again.
Good afternoon.
After the mini clinics we've done the West Hills Mall, we've been to so many locations. And for those of you who are not aware of it, now you have the opportunity, of course, to take advantage of what's been displayed here at the Accra International Conference Center. Then we have Kevin Ajigli, who's with St. Gobain, also joining us this afternoon. It's good to be speaking to you, Ben. Welcome to the program as well. We have Nicholas Suate, who's with Global Lighting, also joining the conversation. So you know that obviously after getting the land, then you need to build. But you need all these three key partners in terms of whether it's lighting or home ownership, in terms of support from funding and whatever it is that you need to know about. We'll get to hear from all of our partners. But lawyer Kwame, let's set the ball rolling just as you did for us yesterday. Let's start off by looking at, the laws of the land and what they say about land acquisition. Because if it's about land acquisition, and for those especially who hail or perhaps reside in the Greater Accra region, then they know, quote and unquote, the wahala, if we can use that word, that comes with land acquisition. But what's the position of our law in terms of how one can go about land ownership? When we say that you are the owner of this land or you're entitled to this land, what's the position of the law on that?
Trying to understand your question. An owner of land.
Yes.
So technically.
And sorry about that. You'd have to move the mic closer to you.
It is not even technically the best to describe someone as an owner of land, because the concept of ownership builds into it a certain level of exclusivity. Right. And when it comes to land, land could have multiple owners, in quotes, simultaneously. So let me give you an example.
Right.
You go to the last two, and the last two gives you a parcel of land. And the last two gives the land to you for 99 years. Within the 99 years, maybe you are on the land for 50 years. And then you have an unexpired portion of 49 years. So out of the 49 years that you have, you can give 20 years by way of a sublease to another person.
Oh, you can do that?
Yes. That other person can also give 10 years of their 20 to somebody else. So you will see the layers of ownership that has been created. And all of these people, the person that got the 20 years can build a house on the land and take it to Ecobank and set up a mortgage. Use that house as a collateral. He has 20 years on the house. So the bank is able to calculate that your 20 years stake is equal to $10 million. So we can give you a facility of $2 million. Use that as a collateral. So you would see that all these people in the chain, each of them can describe themselves as an owner of that land. Is it not so?
But do they retain the same level of ownership?
No, but they retain some level of exclusivity. Because, you see, a lease gives the lessee, the person who holds the lease, exclusive possession. So if the last two gives me land for 99 years, within the 99 years, I have exclusive possession of the place. I can even exclude the last two. I can institute court proceedings against the last two for trespass within the 99 years.
Because you are the owner.
I have a lease for 99 years. And within the 99-year period, I have exclusive possession. That is why if a landlord gives you a lease for 50 years and they want to come buy your land, they need your permission. Otherwise, the landlord could just walk in and say that I am the owner of the land. So what the last two has, they're giving me the 99 years, is called in the law residual proprietary interest or reversion. Right. So at the end of my 99 years, the interest of the last two triggers again. So during the 99 years, the last two's interest kind of becomes dormant. So in the law, we encourage people to describe what they have in the land as the interest that they have in the land. Not the interest like what the banks calculate on the loan. Right. But for interest, you are talking about what relationship do you have with the land. So somebody says, I have a lease. Somebody will say that I have a freehold. So for me, as a technical person, yes, I wouldn't say who is the owner of the land. I will ask the question, what interest do you have in the land?
I see. That's very educative because, people feel it's a straight-jacketed issue. You simply go in, buy land, and that's the end of the story. But in terms of liability as well, do you share the same level of liability when it comes to the lease?
Most of the people who walk around saying they've bought land, they have not bought land.
Right.
They have acquired some interest in the land. But they use the word bought as if land is another commodity that you trade on the market. So let's assume that you go to Def Traco. Maybe Def Traco has land from Nungwastu for 99 years. Def Traco has built a house on the land, and they give you that house for 75 years. You would think that you have bought a house. You haven't bought anything. You have a leasehold on the land, which is by way of a sublease for 75 years. when 75 years comes to an end, until some changes were made in the Land Act, at the end of the 75 years, you take your bag and walk away and leave the house.
So what happens? What happens to the structures?
You haven't bought a house.
I see. So what happens then to the structures on the land?
Those structures become what we call in the law a landlord's fixture. A landlord's fixture. So maybe you have artifacts, wall paintings, and you can take those ones away. But that building has become land. So you leave it for your landlord and you go. So when people talk about we have bought house, I would rather ask you, what interest do you have in that land? Probably you can say you have bought a house if you have a freehold. Because you see, for the freehold interest, it is of an indefinite duration and it is therefore potentially perpetual.
So which means, technically speaking, that you can still own a land?
Yes. Own in the way that lay people use the word, yes.
Okay.
But own the way proper legal professionals use the land is problematic. I gave you the Traco example. So that Traco 99 has given you 75. What do you own? Even Dev Traco got a 99-year lease from a stool. At the end of this 99-year lease, there could be a clause that says it could be renewed for a further term. And so it's not that simple. That's why I said if you have a freehold interest, then that one is potentially perpetual and of indefinite duration.
I see. Many of us,
So
and for those, yes, they don't
land
really pay attention to these details.
They have leases.
Yeah, right. But what should we be on the lookout for then, if you're going in to acquire these, properties? I mean, if you go in there and you want to purchase a land, what do you need to look out for?
Yesterday I started this conversation.
Yeah.
First thing you need to look out
and
for
the
is,
microphone
the
closer.
first thing is what cluster does this land belong to? Okay. Because there are different clusters of land. And you may not know the cluster with your naked eyes, just for the sake of it. You have to appreciate what cluster a particular parcel of land belongs to. If it is in the state cluster, state authorities are the proper entities that can give you the land. So if it is in the state cluster, in our law, the only entity that can give you the land is the Lands Commission. If it is outside the state cluster, you must ask yourself, is it stool land or skin land? Is it family land? Is it clan land? You have to go through all of these. If you don't get to the bottom of what cluster the land belongs to, you end up paying money to the wrong people. And, in this country, we don't have a uniform system of tenure. If anybody tells you that there is a homogeneous land tenure system in this country, it is not true. So, within the Greater Accra region, we have a stool system, we have family systems, we have clan systems here within the Greater Accra region. Right. If you move out, for example, to some areas in Achim and Ashanti region, they have the stool system. Most of Ashanti and Eastern region don't have family systems. But if you go to the Akwapim areas, they have a combination of stools and families having total control over land. There are some lands in some parts of the country that are called alienation holdings. Those alienation holdings are outright purchases of land that were made some time back in history, where normally strangers, they moved. There's a very typical case called Sasraku and David. And the Sasraku and David was a case that happened locally. It went on appeal to the Privy Council in England, and the name changed to Gasub and Gasub versus Sasraku. This was a situation in which farmers from the Greater Accra region had gone to Kokofun area in Ashanti, and they purported to have bought the land outright. The question was whether you could buy land outright. In our law, that kind of transaction has been recognized as a customary law freehold. And that transaction gives you a particular type of land called alienation holding. If you have that land,
which means?
It means that the holder had purchased land outright. It's an outright purchase of land. It comes with certain ceremonies. It's not the normal transaction that we know that have taken a lease. These ones are not leases. They are just outright purchases of land. Currently, under the Land Act, those transactions are restricted. Those transactions are restricted. But for the start, it should be made clear that you are better off being able to explain the relationship you have with the land, rather than saying that I'm the owner of the land, because you may not be the owner of the land. You may have the power to use land and to exclude others from that land for a duration of time, but you will not say that you are an owner.
I see. And these are the technicalities that we're looking at. And just to remind all of you who are watching us on television, this is the Accra International Conference Center, and we're bringing you the Ecobank JoyNews Habitat Fair. Lawyer Kwame Jan breaking down all of the issues for us. If you feel very educated, one more time, let's give him a round of applause as we continue with the conversation. But a number of takeaways that you might not necessarily be the owner of a piece of land, something that we need to pay attention to. And if you're going in for a piece of land, make sure you pay attention to the kind or the type of ownership that you're entering into based on what the law of the land says. But there's also one key point. You need financing. And that's why I want to hear from other partners here with us. Of course, Winston Wobble is with us. Winston, you've been listening to Lawyer Jan explain all of the issues for us. But he says, well, if you have, say, a 20-year lease, for instance, you can just walk into Ecobank and say, oh, what do you have on offer? How can you help me? How can you support me, grow my interest in this piece of land? That's the technical word, right, lawyer? Interest in the land. I see. So what do you have on offer at Ecobank?
Yes, thank you very much. So I picked something from lawyer yesterday.
Yes.
He said, if you are going into a land transaction and you don't pay the proper professional, or you want to cut corners with paying for the proper professional, you would end up paying for litigation. And so that is one thing at Ecobank we want to avoid. So usually during the land acquisition process, especially in cases where customers come to us and say, I want to take a mortgage and purchase a house, the first thing we do is to conduct an independent search at the Lands Commission. I think lawyer mentioned it yesterday. Right. Fortunately, now we have one consolidated search. So all the various divisions of the Land Commission gives you one report. And then this report is interpreted by the professionals, the lawyers. They would look through first and then give the go-ahead and say, look, whoever is purporting to have an interest, I've learned something today.
we're all becoming lawyers by the days.
Whoever is purporting to have an interest in the land,
yes,
who is ceding the residual portion of that interest to you for that period. Lawyer, am I learning well?
Yeah.
Yes. Is ceding the residual period of that land to you, has the right to do so. It is only after passing that stage that would even start talking about the financing part. Right. Because if we don't do that, what would happen is you would have erected your structure, litigation comes in, and you would end up losing. Where sometimes we have issues, and it's normal human nature. When we want to acquire something, we are very eager and we are in a hurry to acquire it. So you'd have the bankers and the lawyers telling you, please wait, let's get the search report from Lands Commission. And then you would have the vendor telling the customer, don't mind them. The bank people, that's what they like. They are too known. Yeah. They like processes too much. They want to do, oh, the thing, I have judgment. I can show you the judgment. You can go ahead. In most times when customers, and in fact, there's been a case where, unknown to us, whilst we told the customer to wait for us to do the due diligence, the customer had actually taken his savings, gone ahead to pay the vendor because he thought, and you know, sometimes they'll tell you, oh, someone is after it, someone has money.
The competition.
He pays, we go through the process, our lawyers realize there's something that needs to be further interrogated. We have series of meetings with the vendor's lawyers, and it comes up, the customer cannot own that property because there's a judgment that the customer was not privy to. As to whether the vendor was privy to, we don't know. However, eventually, this person had lost money because you sunk money into something that you can't own. So it's one key thing for us that we always make sure you have crossed that hurdle before we even go ahead and talk about the finance.
So let's talk about the next phase. If you go through all of these processes that you refer to, and eventually the land is clean, let me use that word. What's the next step?
So the next step is to go through the internal approval process and then advance. And so what we do also is that for structures where the developer is going to do in stages. So we are talking about not the structure that is already prepared and then you just pay and then take your keys. We are talking about foundation today. So in order to safeguard you as a customer, we also would pay the developer in stages. So you would have agreed with the developer and said, first phase is, say, foundation stage. At that stage, as the developer or as the contractor, I can raise my certificate, send it to the bank. We would also do an independent verification to confirm that the value for which you are charging the customer is actually right. Then we'll go ahead and pay for it. And so we'll do it in phases. This way, you as a customer, your interest is also safeguarded. So just in case the developer or the contractor does not perform, he doesn't also get paid for it. Because the moment we pay him, you also have to start paying. I hope I'm right.
See. So you make sure that you pay first of all in tranches,
exactly.
and then afterwards what next? What happens? That's what I'm interested in.
So the afterwards would be for the developer to continue to the next stage, and same way at that stage, once it's confirmed, we make payment until such a time where your keys are handed over to you.
Do you have your options open for, say, any of us here who does not bank at Ecobank? What do you have on offer for persons perhaps who do not have their savings accounts with you? Because you were talking earlier about how people will go ahead, rush off, pull everything they have in their bank accounts just to make payments. For a customer that walks into your bank, wants to do the transaction through Ecobank, but they don't have their accounts with you, what do you have on offer for them?
Yes, so if you are a new to bank, you don't have an existing relationship with us.
Yeah.
First of all, we would need to establish that relationship. So, and it's a very simple process. And this is something you can even do in the comfort of your home. You can go online, go on our website, actually upload all your details and get an account opened for you. So before you come, you can actually have the account number ready. And even the beautiful thing is that even when we are talking about mortgages now, for all our loan offerings, you even have them online. So before you even get to us, you'd have done all your homework and have everything set. In case you haven't done so and then you come over, we get the account opened and then we'll begin the process. Because the process involves you paying for instance, the search, because that one you need to pay for it for us to do on your behalf, get competent people to do on your behalf. Once that is done, as I said, once you are cleared, would be for us to disburse, and then your developer also proceeds for you. And the good thing is that this also gives you some breathing space. So assuming the cost of the whole project was going to be, say, 100,000 cedis, and then the developer says phase one, which is foundation, is 20,000. The moment we pay the vendor for the 20,000, you are also repaying 20,000 until when the next phase is ready to be paid for. So if the project is going to take, say, a year or 6 months, you would actually start paying for the cost of the whole project at the end of the 6 months, instead of starting to pay for the cost of the whole project from the onset.
And Winston, what I'm very happy about talking about Ecobank is, the aspect of due diligence. Do you have any, stories, personal encounters where you've had to, encourage your clients to back off in terms of acquiring a piece of land? Do you have any of such stories? You talk about due diligence all the time, but how are you practicalizing that by connecting to stories and letting people know that these are real-time happenings? It's not that you're just making up the stories here.
Yes. In fact, when it comes to such stories, there are so many of them, and almost every time you get them, there are times when, as I indicated earlier, there are some customers who are also very meticulous. So from the onset, when they identify a property, they will tell you, I've identified this property. This company is doing this development here. Do you know about it? In cases where we have probably financed properties within that area, we're able to tell them, okay, as a first level, we've done maybe 2-3 mortgages for customers within this area. So you can be sure this vendor is very meticulous in their paperwork. And there are times when we can tell them, look, someone started this project. It's been 6 months. He's not been able to get back to us because the vendor is playing dodgy with him on documentation. So when it comes to that, there are so many examples and stories we can give.
Indeed, and that's why we're happy you're partnering for this Ecobank JoyNews Habitat Fair. Of course, we have our friends from St. Gobain here. Ben is also here joining us. And we need to remind you, if you're watching us, that we're at the Accra International Conference Center. You have up to the end of this week, or weekend, if I should say, to make all your purchases. It's raining discounts here at the Accra International Conference Center. So just make your way here. You can join us, ask the questions. We have all the experts here. Lawyer Kwame Jan is here. You just heard from Winston. And now I'm about going to our friends from St. Gobain, because we're talking about land acquisition, and not just that, but also building the foundation. And that's where St. Gobain comes in. Tell us about your story, first of all. And how you are going about addressing the needs of Ghanaians when it comes to home ownership.
Okay, first of all, as many of you know, St. Gobain started business in Ghana in 2015. We actually started our production in 2016. So we've been here for a little over 8 years in Ghana. But as a group, we've existed since 1665.
Did you say 1665? My viewers are having some challenges hearing you, so draw the microphone closer so we can hear you. 1665.
Since 1665. This year we are actually 358 years old as a company.
Ben, you weren't born there, I'm sure.
Not even my great-grandfathers were born at the time. Yes, but we are all proud that through a lot of corporate excellence, a business that started from France, in a small village called Saint-Gobain.
Right.
That is where we acquired the name St. Gobain. Actually, it started as a small glass factory at the time. And over the period, St. Gobain has acquired or has gone into so many other different lines of businesses. So generally, we are into building materials or construction products. But again, also, we are involved in many industries. So we provide input for a lot of industries. If you talk about the automobile industry, for instance, the windscreens, the windshields you see on many of the cars you drive in Ghana are made of St. Gobain glass, and you can be sure of the quality you're getting because it helps to reduce the solar radiation which comes into your car. Not only that, when it comes to the insulation that you have in your cars, Ghana is very hot. You can rise temperatures up to about 35 to 40 degrees sometimes, but you do not feel that heat inside your car because there's a good insulation that has been provided between the outside and the interior. So this is what helps you to enjoy some level of comfort inside your car. So we've gone through a lot of product lines over the years. I'm talking about 358 years. Saint-Gobain has veered into so many different product lines. So you have so many businesses of Saint-Gobain. You talk about Weber. So Weber is a business which is responsible for construction chemicals and mortars. So mortars, you're talking about tile adhesives, stamp concrete solutions, grouting, waterproofing, and all of that. You talk about Gyproc, and not Gyproc. It's Gyproc.
Okay.
Gyproc, ProRock, Placo are similar businesses. So in the English countries, we are known as Gyproc from the word gypsum. So it's a gypsum-based business. In French and Spanish businesses, they like to refer to it as Placo. Okay. So that is where you have those differences. So those business names, Gyproc and Placo, are responsible for your gypsum-related products.
I see. So if someone walks into your showroom now, what services are on offer?
So in Ghana here, we're providing many of the core business solutions for our customers. You realize that we have a lot of infrastructural gap in Ghana, and that is what we're trying to address. We have in excess of 1 million housing deficit, and so that is what we're trying to address. And it starts with building the foundation. So we have products, for instance, that can help you to build very, very good foundations for your building. Unfortunately, a lot of us in Ghana do not pay so much attention to the substructure because it is not seen. And that is the difference. We would put the best quality paint because that is what is seen aesthetically. But when it comes to the foundations, the substructure, a lot of the times we like to cut corners. Many of us would not. I mean, many of us can be honest with us. How many of us here got structural engineers to design our foundations for us? Not many.
Yeah.
You go to any site, once you get a land, a lawyer will tell us, as soon as you get the land, they tell you, you have to start doing something immediately. As soon as they tell you that, you should know that there's a problem with the land. So start doing something immediately. The one who has just purchased the land is not a developer, is not a builder. But they just draw something. This year, let's have a bedroom here, let's have a kitchen here, let's have a washroom here.
And you start developing.
And then they start developing. They don't take into account all the factors that needs to be taken into account when building a good foundation. And some of them include even soil testing. Many times we need to test the soil. We need to understand the load that a building is going to carry over a long period of time. How many years do we want this building to stand? It is different when you are building a temporary structure, and it's different when you are building a structure which is going to last in excess of 100 years. So in Ghana, we have been lucky to say we have been part of a lot of projects where we have brought in our expertise and our technical know-how to be able to guide a lot of contractors, engineers, architects in designing buildings. Mind you, we are not structural engineers in what we are doing, but we are able to offer technical advice in terms of the right product that needs to be used. So for instance, there are a lot of factors that you need to consider. If you are casting concrete for your foundation, what is the exposure class of concrete, for instance, you're looking at? What is the strength? I mean, it's measured in megapascal. What is the strength of the concrete, the strength of the building that you are looking at? We would be able to help you, based on the technologies that we have brought to Ghana, to help you to design mixed designs in concrete, which would help you to have very strong structures, which will be able to stand the test of time.
I see. So it's much more about the foundation. It's a very critical stage when it comes to building the foundation and not just paying attention to aesthetics, as you're making us aware, but that would include lights as well. So don't just be on the lookout for the lights, the chandeliers that you'd want to go in for. I'll come to my friend Nicholas shortly. He's joining us from Global Lighting. But just before we come to the aesthetics, which is also a very critical aspect of home ownership, I want us to deal with the legal requirements when putting up that foundation. And that's why I want to come back to you, Lawyer Kwame Jan, just before we do Nicholas. the point about, I see buildings. You walk, on some of the streets here in Accra, and you realize there's a marking, a red one, of course, either from the local assembly indicating produce permit, stop work. We see that a lot of times. But what's the legal reasoning to that? Because when you're about putting up the foundation, it appears there's a requirement. We just heard from, Ben indicating to us that you are forced most of the time. Oh, start doing something when you acquire the land. But there are legal requirements as to what you need to do before you start that foundation.
Two things. First, on the physical part of the
Structure,
foundation,
yes.
the structure. There is the National Building Regulations, LI 1630. The National Building Regulations provide elaborate rules on how buildings should look like in this country in terms of material composition of buildings. The National Building Regulations also provide that before you put up a building in this country, you must have a building permit to construct a building. Then, the National Building Regulations also provide the definitional requirements of the permit. And it says the permit must be an approval, a registered document from the Chief Registrar of Lands.
An approval?
Yes.
Of the design of the
no,
building?
Wait.
Right. Mm-hmm.
You first must get a permit before you build. And you will not get a permit unless you have title to the land. So, you see, in this country, one of our biggest problems is haphazard land development. Occasionally, one might think that it is a deficiency in the law. It is not the law. It is simply a matter of enforcement of the law. So, look at the sequencing. The National Building Regulations provide all the necessary laws and principles to ensure the structural and design integrity of a building. So, the steel, the cement, the sand, even the water, everything is provided for. The measurements. But the National Building Regulation says you must have a permit before you develop land in this country. And the same law says you will not get a permit unless you have a document relating to the land which is registered.
As the owner, which
you must have your interest in the land
Mm-hmm.
registered.
Right. Mm-hmm.
It means that all those parts of our countries where everybody is building without a registered document should not have happened by now. By now, if we had been compliant, Accra probably shouldn't have reached Jonte yet. Yes. Because, no, listen. Now, Accra has joined Suhum. Why? Why is Accra sprawling laterally? Now, overtaking Suhum. Those lands in Amasaman Pokwase, which supplied fresh fruits and corn and cassava to the city, all those lands have become haphazard housing development. It is not because we don't have the laws. It is because we are not enforcing our laws.
So even with the numerous produce permits that we see on these buildings, people still go ahead to develop?
No, because these days, even the developers themselves write the produce permit. As soon as the person starts, he himself, the ink with which the assemblies do, it's in the market. And then the developer, the developer says, produce permit and the developer gives their own date. They know that by the time the date has expired, they have completed. So if you start the building today, produce permit, and you give yourself 6 months, you know you can finish the building in less than 6 months. But you see, let me take you back to where we were. No permit, no building. Not so. No title to land, no permit. But the same national building regulations say that if you submit an application for a permit to the assembly, and within 90 days, the assembly doesn't tell you no, it is presumed to be yes. You see, the way we do things in this country, the drafter of the regulations had very good intentions, I tell you. So the drafter of the regulations is trying to push the assemblies to do their work. So the drafter says, give the assembly the time. Submit the necessary drawings to the assembly. Then the assemblies, if they were proactive, should quickly respond and say to you that your permit has been received and action is being taken on it. Maybe they did a structural analysis and they think that the steel reinforcement is either below or above what is required. They should communicate that to you so that you can do what is right by the assembly. Unfortunately, maybe the person who submitted the plan is the building owner. He got an architect along the roadside to prepare the plans, and the architect carried it to somebody else who has the power to stamp a plan, to stamp it, and the homeowner, prospective homeowner, took the plan and dropped it in the assembly. So somebody in the assembly also goes to sleep, and 90 days has elapsed. Technically, that person could build that house, and then the assembly will go and demolish, and then judgment death. So, if we were honest with ourselves as a country, no building without a permit, no permit without proof of title to land, there will be no unauthorized structures in this country. Because the intendment of the legislation is to ensure that there is planning before development. But in this country, it is the opposite. There is development before planning. So you see all these houses we have built, mansions, without road access. That's what has happened to us as a country. Yeah. So ask yourself, why is ECG extending electricity to facilities that have no permits? Why is Ghana Water extending facilities to properties that have no permits? So the agencies that are supposed to collaborate to ensure compliance with our laws,
unfortunately, they're not doing that. And some developers, I understand, are not happy because you are exposing their strategy. They write, produce permits, and then they go ahead and do it.
They themselves do right. In fact, it's the individual developer.
I see.
But you see, there was something else that I should have.
Yes, quickly land on that.
There is also the Local Governance Act, which has its own permitting requirements. The 2016 legislation. So, with the National Building Regulations, the Local Governance Act, the Land Act, and all of these various acts, we shouldn't have issues with development without
structures. Maybe it's a matter of enforcement, and this is where, of course, we'll have to urge the authorities to come in as well and to enforce the laws. We're here at the Accra International Conference Center. You're watching us on the Joy News channel, and make your way here because it's raining discounts at the Ecobank JoyNews Habitat Fair. We're also doing our part by educating you so you don't lose out on everything, right? We're talking about land acquisition and building the foundation. Now we know what the legal requirements are, where you need to go to. St. Gobain, our friends are here. Ecobank is also here. But when it comes to aesthetics, which is also a very critical aspect of home ownership, lighting is definitely something that we need to look at. So let's speak to Nicholas Sowate, who's joining us from Global Lighting, correct?
Yes.
And Nicholas, it's good to be talking to you. We've heard a lot, but we know that when you're about finishing, lighting will be a critical aspect.
Very important.
How do you solve that problem for us?
With most of us, just like we've learned from lawyer, after you've legally acquired the land, then you have the permit to start the foundation. The next thing you should think of is how to light up the place. Most developers wait till they are done with the ceiling and roofing before they think of lighting. And light, if it's not well applied, you will either wake up more energetic than usual, or you wake up very dull. Light is very important, and if you don't apply it well, you will not get the right results. So I believe after you've acquired the land, even before you get to the lighting stage, you need to start making inquiry about lighting. If you are using interior decorators, you need to let them, because I'm sure before the process starts, you've already done your architectural designs. You know where you are going to, how the interior decorators are going to position their staffs in the room and stuff. So let them involve the lighting companies so that you know so that we come in to advise you on where to use the lights and how to use the lights. Because lighting, trust me, goes a long way than putting up just a bulb in a single room or putting up a bulb at a particular place to give you light. It goes way beyond that. Light is very important, and if you don't apply it well, you will not get the right results.
And here's the thing. We seem to only notice how important it is when the lights go out. That's when we all realize, we suddenly look up and say, oh, the lights are out. Do you need some level of technical expertise, or as an ordinary Ghanaian, can you just determine what a good lighting system is? I mean, speaking as an ordinary Ghanaian.
Yes, you can. That is when you need the technician, or you need an advice from a lighting company, or someone who is well vested with lighting advice. What we do is there are a lot of technicalities when it comes to lighting. We have indoor lights and we have outdoor lights. If you wrongly position an indoor light outside because you've seen the application by another person, your light will not give you the longevity that it should be. For instance, let's say I've gone to a friend's house. I've seen the particular light he's using there. To me, it's very beautiful, and I would want to have the same light in my house or in my apartment. Probably where he is, sometimes location also matters. Maybe he is close to the sea, so he is not close to the sea, so he's using more of an aluminum fitting. But you close to the sea, it will not be the best thing for you to use at your apartment. When it happens like that, you realize that within a few months, you realize that it starts fading off, and it will not give you the right results. Or the beauty that you saw at a particular place, you will not see the same thing at your side. And for inside lights, if you use them outside, there is an IP that you need to look out for when buying a light or when you want to apply a light. And the IP tells you how strong the light can stand in any weather condition. So let's say for an IP20, which is supposed to be for an indoor, if you use them outdoor because you don't know, or you just bought them because of its beauty and you position it outside, trust me, it will not last for 3 months. And you might end up blaming the lighting company that you bought from, that they don't sell quality light to you. So most of the issues you see out there is not because the lights that they bought are not correct, but maybe they didn't apply it well.
And also there's the issue about consumption, because the light is obviously going to add up to your daily consumption in terms of electricity.
Very well.
We need to be mindful of that as well.
Yes, very well. You need to. You see, lighting, the consumption of lights depends on the type of bulb or fitting you are using. When it comes to LED lights, they produce less heat and their consumption is very low as compared to the filaments or the halogen bulbs. You see, so let's say if you are using an LED fitting in your room, your consumption is going to be low. One good thing about LED lights are they don't produce much heat, especially with the warm colors. They don't produce much heat and they consume less. You don't know, if you don't know, you might end up buying a bulb or let's say an incandescent bulb for your room or in a fitting, or an halogen bulb in a fitting. They produce much heat and they consume more. So when you look at an halogen bulb, you will see something like 50 watts on a very small bulb. When you light it up, you can't, within 5 seconds, you can't touch it. You realize it's very hot. That is for the halogen. But when you look at the same halogen bulb, when you look at LED, it might be as low as 5 watts. But the LED will bright more than the halogen. So you have to be mindful of the type of fitting you use.
I see.
if you want to save electricity.
And all I need to say at this point is that that's why you need global lighting, because obviously they are here at the Accra International Conference Center offering you all kinds of solutions when it comes to lighting. So you just need to make your way here to the Accra International Conference Center. It's the Ecobank JoyNews Habitat Fair, and what a time it has been with lawyer Kwame Jan, Winston from Ecobank, Ben from St. Gobain, and also Nicholas, who's been speaking to us about lighting. We're taking a breather here. When we return, there's the issue about the opportunities and how you can take advantage of them. It's not just about the International Conference Center. Beyond this very Ecobank JoyNews Habitat Fair, where do you go to? How can you reach them? And how do you take advantage of the opportunities they are presenting to you? We'll find out shortly after this break. And thank you for staying with us on the Joy News channel. Wherever you're watching us from, we're coming to you live from the Accra International Conference Center. This is the Ecobank Joy News Habitat Fair, and I'm just taking a look at the time once more, and it's almost the end of the working days. So wherever you are, wherever you're watching us from, if you are the Accra International Conference Center, just pass by and have a feel of this rain of discounts that we have here with anything home ownership. And while we do that, we're also getting to educate you on matters relating to home ownership, and we're reflecting on affordability, comfort, or luxury. Whatever the options are for you, you have the opportunity to just take advantage of that here at the Accra International Conference Center. And that's why we're making this program as educative as possible, speaking to lawyer Kwame Jan, who's been educating us on, issues relating to land acquisition, which is part of the topic we're looking at, and building the foundation. We have our friends from Ecobank Ghana also joining us. So Winston is still with us, except to say that we have more on offer for you, and that's why we have our friends from Interplast Ghana Limited joining us. Elizabeth JB is head of marketing, and Elizabeth, it's good to see you again. It looks like we're reuniting with all of our friends after a series of clinics that we've run, in different parts of the country. But Accra International Conference Center is where you have that opportunity to yet again experience that love that the Ecobank Joy News Habitat Fair is bringing to you. Maxwell Appiah is the National Sales Manager for G&J Technical Services Limited. He's joining us. Maxwell, good to see you.
Thank you. Nice to see you.
Okay. So just before we go back to what the law says and what we need to know about building the foundation, let's talk about Interplast, right? Because we know that wherever Interplast goes, of course,
wherever you are, we make sure
water reaches you, indeed. And that's why I'm excited that you're joining us as well. After we've spoken about the lights, we've spoken about getting the foundation right. Water is life. And beyond water as well, we know that there are so many products that you have on offer that relates to home ownership. So let's talk about the Interplast journey and how you can help us deal with whether it's affordability, comfort, or luxury. We know that you have something on offer.
The Interplast brand, I would say it's luxury, it's affordable, and quality stand tall. Interplast is a pipe manufacturing brand that every Ghanaian knows, because Atongo is a household name, and we've all lived with the Atongo advert. But Interplast does more than just the pipes. We have our UPVC windows and doors. We have your ceiling panels as well. We have PPR pipes. We have irrigation system for your lawn and garden. And even if you have a beautiful home and you want to eat from your backyard, we have our drip kit, which is also an irrigation system that you can use, a simple to use system at your backyard. So we have all these products at Interplast that can help consumers for their home.
I see. For those who are watching us on television, why should they come here to the Accra International Conference Center? How different will that be from just walking to any of your showrooms across the country?
Okay. With this fair, what it does more is to bring industries that stand out when we talk about quality. So Interplast being here, we have our windows and doors, as I said earlier. What this fair also gives people the opportunity to know what particular product that suits their home. People most of the time, as was discussed earlier, want windows. Window is not just window.
Yeah.
As my colleague said earlier, your house might be at the seafront. These days, everybody wants a house that is facing the sea. They want a house, they call it seafront.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't just buy aluminum or buy anything because it will rust. But we have the UPVC windows that can solve that problem. We also have our plastic TNG. So if your house is going to be at the seafront, you need to meet clients or, how should I say, manufacturers that have UPVC products that can satisfy that need. We also have our pipes. I said earlier, you just don't start the foundation just like that. You know, when they do the foundation, they lay the pipes at the same time. So pipes, every home, when you open your tap, water flows.
Yeah.
But there is a pipe down there that is serving your home with water. These days, I hear plumbers saying that pipes is pipe. Pipe is never pipe. Because you'll be in your home after 2 years, you experience, how should I say, water on your walls, and there's a leakage in there that you have to address. The only way is to now chisel the whole house, and you have to go over like the whole process again. So we advise people, when you are buying pipe, buy the right pipe. You have to be involved in the whole process. Don't just leave it to your plumbers, because plumbers will be looking more on the quality, not the on the quantity, not the quality. So make sure that in every step of the process, in purchasing products for your home, you are right there to make the decision.
And that's why I want to find out, do you provide support services just in case? Because you might have a plumber you want to rely on, and yet you also want to be sure that you're going in for the right items.
Okay, so for our UPVC windows, for instance, we offer custom-made solutions. So from start, we can talk about the measurement, that we come ourselves to the site to take the measurement. We go back to the factory, we do a quotation for you. But we say custom-made because there's a discussion between the client and then the customer as well. How should I say, the manufacturer and the customer. So there's a discussion whereby your designs are taken into consideration, your color. And as I said earlier, we also educate you. We find out where your project is going to be, so that if you have challenges with the soil, whether there's a lot of salt in the soil, which you can't go for anything linked to aluminum, we educate you and all that. And we do the installation ourselves with our windows, because we want to make sure that you are getting the right product and the right finishing as well. So it's a start to finish process that we take you through.
Okay, just land on that for me.
So for Interplast, we also believe in educating people. If someone knows how to use your product, that is when they will procure it or they would actually buy. But if I don't know how to use the product, there's no way I would go for it. So when we introduce our PPR product, which is for hot and cold water to replace the copper pipes, we started with training plumbers. We brought a lot of plumbers to our factory, took them through the installation process. We educated them. I saw that we offered them discounts and good rates. And now I can assure you that PPR pipe is the new way to go now. People no longer go in for copper pipes.
So if someone comes here to the Accra International Conference Center, what should they be on the lookout for, and what are you giving some special discounts?
Yes, I think we are also in the festive season, I would say Black Friday, so there's a lot of discounts flowing. I can personally guarantee 10% discount here. We'll give you a measurement taken at your site also at no cost. And then you have a technical advice. If you come to this fair, we have our product fixed. We have a whole structure that has been built at the fair. We have the various colors of our profiles available. And we have the technical team right here to take you through the whole process, advise you, and you book an appointment from that point.
I see. That's why I want to hear from Maxwell as well. At G&J Technical Services, how do you support, this foundation process for anyone, any prospective homeowner?
Yeah, so I like telling stories. So let me tell you a story. I've had, there was a customer who started building, and I started having a conversation with the customer. Let's talk about generators. He said, Maxwell, it's not yet time for generators. When it's time, we will talk about it. I'm quite an understanding person, so I gave the person, I understand you, go ahead and build. So he built, did everything, and they started living in the house. Then after a while, the lights started going off. Then he called Maxwell. Now let's talk about the generator. And he wanted a generator positioned at a particular place behind the house. And to be able to do that, we had to break a part of his wall before he will be able to have access to the place that we had to put the generator to position the generator. Yeah. And I've had several such stories, So because of that, we want to start having the conversation from the foundation level. Another thing, let me just create a worst case scenario in our head. Tomorrow, 12:30, is going to be Liverpool and Manchester City going to play. And for us as guys, this is a very serious thing. And just imagine at 12:29, a Manchester fan sitting in the ECG office decided to put off your lights.
In fact, I'll be the one to do that.
That then becomes a serious problem. If you have a generator, you just have to then continue having your power. So we call ourselves the generator expert. Basically, we focus on backup power. Backup because we know that it's not a main source of power. We do have ECG that is providing the primary source of power. But we come in hand when that power goes off. And now I think that we have become very dependent on power. If it was, some years ago, we'll say generator is a luxury. But now it looks like it's no more luxury. Having a backup power is no more luxury. The way the lights keeps on going off and the way sometimes almost our life depends on us having continuous power. Yeah. That is why we are here. And we are here to educate you that start having a conversation with us. We are not saying pay or buy. Mm-hmm. We are saying that let us advise you to think through, because one day you may need a generator. Let us advise you how to lay your cables, where to position your generator, which is very important because the right position of the generator can affect a lot of things, like your sound level, like how the generator can even last, because the heat, overheating also plays a part. All so right. We want you to come. Let us start having the conversation.
And for those who will be coming here, what should they be on the lookout for? Are there some discounts from G&J?
Yes, yes. When they come Anybody who comes here, register with us or write their name with us. We have 5% discount for you.
I see.
From the start. Then we will also make available our technical expertise to you, come to your house, do an assessment, and then give you an advice as to what you can do. And if even you are conceptualizing your project, we can still sit down with you with the expert, and then we can advise you.
I'm having a feeling this is a Liverpool fan, but we'll talk about that later on.
Sorry to disappoint you.
Right. So let's just round off by looking at once more at all the issues that we've been recapping as far as land acquisition and also building the foundation is concerned. Lawyer Kwame, let me, of course, just once more come back to you, and then we wrap up with the aspect of the services. Yes, we know about the legal requirements, acquiring the land, when you are building, your dealings with the local government, and now the services, because it's someone that's going to render a service in building the foundation or even the entire house. Can you take them on when you realize that, I've put up my structure and all of the quality measures I've been on the lookout for has been breached?
It depends. The building is a product. Now, in the law of thoughts, we say that a manufacturer of product owes a responsibility to the ultimate consumer. That in the preparation or putting up of that product, the manufacturer would apply reasonable skill to put together that product so that it can serve the purpose that was intended by the two parties. So if there is a structural breach, the possibilities are open in the law of negligence for the consumer, who is the client. Now, the structural breach could also be a breach which is patent or a breach which is latent. So it depends on the nature of the breach. But the general principle is the manufacturer of the product, which in this case would include the builders.
I see.
The supplier of the genset. And it doesn't matter that the genset was not supplied by the manufacturer in the UK. Once that manufacturer puts out a genset on the market, the manufacturer must have me, that purchaser in Ghana, in his contemplation that I will buy his generator here. So the manufacturer cannot say that I was not expecting you, Kwame-Jan, to buy my generator. Once you put it out on the market, you must have me in contemplation.
But what do you need to establish that indeed there's a breach of the quality for which you can now head to court to seek your entitlement?
So it's not you that should establish. You'll be proceeding under the law of negligence. And for the law of negligence, there's a case law called Alasa Kotokoli versus Moro Hausa. Now, it simply says, one, you must establish that you are owed a duty of care by that person. You must also establish that there is a breach of that duty. And you must also establish that you have suffered injury as a result of the breach. Now, these are pure legal matters, and I need 1 year. To take you through this. I need 1 whole year.
I see.
Not 5 minutes.
Not 5 minutes, but at
but
least.
The law takes a builder of a house as a manufacturer.
I was asking the question because, someone would like to just take advantage of the openings in the law and proceed, because sometimes you go in for these services and they're not top-notch in terms of quality.
Yes, there could be a failure on the part of the builder. But the first question the court would ask is, for the particular activity that was engaged in, has this person been able to meet the standard expected of a builder in that person's range of buildings? That's the reason why. If you just go find a wayside mason who puts blocks together with mortar and it collapses on your head, the question that will be asked is a mason of ordinary qualification and prudence, is this how they can perform? If the answer is yes, he has not breached anything. So remember, for every activity, there is a community standard of performance required. If a lawyer of my standing gives you a legal opinion and you rely on it and you suffer some injury, the court will look at me in a different light from a lawyer of 1 year standing giving a legal opinion in similar circumstances. So the person that you are employing as your manufacturer, if their standard is low, the community, which is the court, would expect a standard of that person. So if it is a Regimanuel Gray, another level, that wayside, so you take your car to Toyota for servicing. A certain standard of care is required of Toyota by the law. If you take it to, without any disrespect, take it to some drain or donor drain side. It's another standard. It's not the same. So the law would accept some level of mediocrity from the Odona person, but will not take it from Toyota. So in all of this, you have to make some judgment as to who you are going to employ to put together that house for you. Because the degree of your protection depends on the expected level of performance
that the person is giving. And the degree of education we're receiving from Lawyer Komijan deserves an applause. Please, let's give it up for him once more. We're grateful, Lawyer Komijan, that you're spending some time with us today. And of course, that's why you need to go in for the very quality. Interplast is here. Just come by, of course, the Accra International Conference Center. You would have all the information you need from Elizabeth and the team here, as well as Maxwell from G&J Technical Services. But we also do have our partners, Ecobank, here with us. Winston has been seated all through, listening to the conversations. And Winston, I'm just wondering if you partner with some of these organizations, service providers, because as a client walking into the bank, I'm not just looking for the financing. You also want to ensure that there's value for money. Do you watch that as well?
Yeah, that's right. And in the case of Interplast, in the case of J&J, what would happen is that we also acknowledge that not all our customers would come to us and can be able to afford, say, a mortgage. Some might want to undertake the project by themselves, and so would require certain items at certain specific times. So we have what we call a buy now, pay later. These are short-term financing products. So for instance, if you got to the stage where you were a bit stuck with your finances and you needed, say, to buy pipes for your building, that one between us and Interplast, we can arrange for them to supply you with the piping for you to get the project done immediately, and then it's spread for you over a very short period of time. And same for the gen sets also, that one too, we're able to do.
Okay, so generally speaking, all home appliances?
All home appliances,
okay.
Yes.
What's the requirement then?
Same way, you need to be a customer with us and have your salary pass through your account with us, or have any cash investments with us, and then we can handle for you.
Okay. Let's talk about repayment, because it's been a concern for many. If, say, I want to go in for a product at Interplast or G&J Technical Services, what do I need to do?
Yes, so repayment would be taken from your salary or from your account with us. We know the concern has been with the interest rates.
Okay.
But in these cases, between the supplier and us, we've arranged very favorable terms, which makes interest on these products way lower than what is on the market. Yeah. So if you are taking, say, a personal loan to finance a project, you may be paying higher than if you were taking a loan to finance some of these home appliances and finishings.
I see. And mind you, we're looking at affordability, comfort, or luxury. In these three dimensions, do you give option to the client, or you then go and decide which products you can afford or pay for?
Yes, so we would not insist on this for the client, but as I keep on saying, for each client, you'd look at your financial phase, and you'd also look at your affordability, because it's very key. I would want to drive a Rolls Royce. Maybe I cannot afford that. So it's also very important, and we have these conversations with our customers, that even if, as we seek to provide financing, you also need to make room for other unforeseen circumstances that might crop up, where you might also need financing. So when we have all these conversations, one advice we give to our customers is also to leave gap for financing for emergency purposes, should that occur as well.
And you were talking earlier about due diligence and how you are very keen on that at Ecobank in this very, arrangement of buy now, pay later. Do you also apply that?
Yes, we do so. So we actually partner with companies and institutions where we've done our background checks, we've vetted them, and we've had long-standing relationships with them. So in terms of even the quality, you are very sure that if you got something from Interplast and you had quality concerns with them, you could easily go back to them, and then they would sort it out for you. So you won't have a case where you picked an item from a vendor, they had issues, and then the vendor will tell you, it's as it is, take it like that. So we actually sort out all these aftermarket issues as well to make sure that our customers have value for their money.
Yeah, and all too soon we're running out of time. Let me give the opportunity to G&J Technical Services just to enlighten us what services will be on offer if someone walks into your cubicle now at the Accra International Conference Center.
Yes, thank you very much. I'd like to just applaud Lawyer for the information he gave about the responsibility on your part as a potential homeowner and also your service suppliers, in terms of the quality of the product that is given. This is just to put it by that we at G&J, we provide up to some of our gensets up to 2 years extended warranty. That is a patented warranty, as he said. That means if there is a problem with the genset, you can hold this on. Right. G&J is almost 30 years now. That means we will be held to a higher accountability than going to buy a genset from a roadside.
So you've become a lawyer in less than 1 year.
Exactly. I learned quickly. Yeah, than buying a genset from a roadside. So if something happened to your genset from the person from the roadside, the same accountability will not be held of him than it will be held of us. That's why if you are, generator is not a cheap thing, whether it is slightly cheaper or not, it's not a cheap thing. So if you want to invest that amount of money, buy it from a source that you can trust. Right. And if anything, you can also know that they will be able to sort you out.
Okay, great. And for you, Elizabeth, what will be your final word in terms of what people should be on the lookout for? Yeah. Let's see about that. Okay. Maybe we'll just, okay, right.
So what we normally say is that the first pipe that Interplast sold over 50 years to Ghana Water is still buried underground and supplying water to our homes. That is how serious we take the quality.
I'm not sure they've heard that. 50 years, please give it up for them. Yes. Mm.
Yes. And Interplast has built upon that, and currently we are supplying to over 23 African countries from Ghana here. So we always say we are proud to be Ghanaians. We also want to safeguard the product out there so that Ghanaians also know that they are buying the right product. So we make sure that the pipes that are coming out of our factory all are labeled on the pipe. So you find the Interplast logo on the pipe. So we also advise people, don't just go out there and buy any pipe. Buy Interplast pipe. Buy pipe that is labeled, because they will deceive you and say pipe is pipe or this is Interplast pipe. So make sure that the decision that is being made, you are part of it. Even we have our office doors open to you. You can walk in there. We have agents all around that have signs that show that they are authorized agents you can buy. Even our lab is open for people to walk through. I personally will take you through a tour to see where your ceiling panels are being manufactured, right, the process and all that. So Interplast quality is what we stand.
Indeed, and this is why you need to be at the Accra International Conference Center for the Ecobank JoyNews Habitat Fair. And now, Lawyer Kwame Chan, we need to, wrap up with our last leg of conversation, which we'll have to do. Let's start off perhaps with talking about the agents, because they've become, very important individuals in home ownership or renting as well. What does the law say about these individuals who are intermediaries, perhaps if we could describe them that way, in terms of home ownership or renting to own?
Many years back, I was the legal advisor to the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources. One of the areas we identified as being problematic was the role of agents in the housing building sector. Generally speaking, because they are agents, they will be regulated by the same law on agency. But we made an attempt to pass a real estate agency bill into law. Unfortunately, at that time, we had issues between Ministry of Lands and Ministry of Works and Housing. We had a similar issue on the revisions of the Rent Act, Act 220. Same interministerial issues. Two ministries each think that they are the home ministry to the activity. So there are some agents in the country who are property agents, mostly people who are land economists, who are in valuation and estate practice. But the largest number of agents are those who have their cards embossed or fixed into a mango tree. That's where the problem is. That person whose office is under a mango tree, who says, I can find you accommodation, I can find you an office. If they take monies from you, you may probably not find them again. So I know that there have been attempts to pass legislation to deal with real estate agents. But, the time that I was at the Ministry of Lands was between 2003 and 2011.
But looking at what's happening now, would you say it's very urgent? We need to deal with that now by passing the law, perhaps formulating a new one?
I would probably not add very to the agent. And I'll tell you the reason. Most of the time, we probably have to allow certain aspects of our economy and the life to evolve up to a point before we bring in legislative interventions. If you are not careful bringing in a legislative intervention in a certain way, you would have issues. For example, one of the contentions was who qualifies to be an agent. We had a similar issue when we were drafting the Land Act. Who qualifies to draw up a conveyance? So what we call indentures. Who qualifies to draw up an indenture? Ultimately, in Section 3 of the Land Act, Section 33 of the Land Act, it was specifically stated that only a legal practitioner qualified within the meaning of the Legal Profession Act can prepare a conveyance. So the people who are called valuers were demanding that before you are licensed as a real estate agent, you must have a qualification technically arising out of land economy. So this would have excluded lots of people in this area. And these were some of the reasons why that process has stalled. So it could be revived. But still, in the meantime, all those who are using agents must come under one principle that I said yesterday. You are like purchasing the services of the agent, not so. So you have to beware. Caveat emptor.
Do we extend the scope to look at, say, land guards? Because for those in Accra, that's also been a major headache for them.
Land guards. Land guards, have you been able to define who a land guard is? If you look at the Land Act, land guards were never mentioned in the Land Act. Yes. The land guards were mentioned in the Vigilante Act, the 2019 legislation, which was enacted to deal with vigilantism. And the idea was to deal with all these agencies, so to speak, that were involved in election violence. And then they added 1 or 2 paragraphs prohibiting the activities of land guards. Now, let me be controversial. At least once in a while, I do. Who is a land guard? If I had a plot of land and people I sense that there could be encroachments. And I have a licensed weapon. And I go to the land with my weapon. Am I a landguard?
Maybe you're a landlord, but just maybe.
So if I engage, if I have 10 acres of land in cantonments, I am a busy person. I may not be able to go and sit there physically to protect the land. I sense that it could be encroached upon. So I engage West Tech Security. And they put up an observation point on the land. Are they land guards?
Someone is asking me to answer. I don't know what to say now.
Yeah. So anytime I visit this whole thing, I ask myself that the people who put together the Vigilante Act, I think they rushed. They rushed quickly to deal with all the Delta forces of our time. They should have taken out the land guard part and allowed the land guards thing to be dealt with. I think that the matter of land guards has rather been properly dealt with in Section 12 of the Land Act. It's a better arrangement than what is in the Vigilante.
And just by way of education, what does that stipulate?
In the Land Act, certain activities were proscribed or prohibited without naming the perpetrators of the activities. So, for example, if somebody walked onto land over which they have no title or interest, and they prevent someone who has an interest in the land from developing their land, they commit an offense. Don't worry about how you call them. If somebody comes onto your land where you have an interest and that person doesn't have an interest, and they seek to extort money from you. So people will come to the land, they will seize your wheelbarrows and things, and they will carry it into some house and say, bring 10,000 cedis. That kind of activity is proscribed under the Land Act. But you don't have a name or title for those people. It is the conduct we are seeking to check, not the designation. So don't worry yourself about how you call people. The title land guard is not the problem. It's what they are engaged in that we are punishing or seeking to proscribe. So if you look at this along that line, Section 12 of the Land Act has what it takes to deal with this land guards thing. Now the question is, those who are land guards now, around December 7th next year, they will be the same people following politicians to do the election violence. In the evening, when they don't have money in their pockets, they are the same people who are armed robbers. So, don't worry about how you call them. He's a land guard in the afternoon, he's an armed robber in the night, and on election, the eve of the elections, he is a vigilante for a political party. So don't worry about the designation. Worry about the activity they are engaged in.
Let's give it up for Lawyer Kwame Chan. I see that there's so much interest in this. Unfortunately, this is all time will allow us. We need to draw the curtains on this conversation. But for those of you who need to know about what we're doing here, this is the Ecobank JoyNews Habitat Fair. And of course, it's just a precursor to all of the, great deals and services you have here when you walk to the Accra International Conference Center, where we're bringing you this year's Ecobank JoyNews Habitat Fair. The theme is on affordability, comfort, and luxury. And of course, I must thank Winston from Ecobank, Elizabeth from Interplus, and also Maxwell from G&J Technical Services for joining us. And ultimately, to Lawyer Kwame Chan doing the legal analysis. You need 1 year with him just to understand all of this that we're talking about. So please, let's give a round of applause to all of them for helping out with the conversation. And here at the Accra International Conference Center, I am Blessed Sugan signing out on the polls as well. Next will be Business Live on the Joy News channel, and a lot more that will come your way. We have a lot more coming your way on land and house ownership that you need to know about, because lawyer Kwame is returning. So that's a great deal, an announcement that we're giving to you. And so there will be the opportunity as well. I see some of you raising up your hands just to ask questions. Tomorrow you have the opportunity with lawyer Kwame just to ask questions and get all of the answers. He's promised us. You'll be here. So one more time, let's do it for lawyer Kwame. And that's all we have for you in this package. Thank you so much for spending some time with us.